Have you ever wondered what doctors really do to treat themselves and their loved ones? Do they also get prescribed long lists of expensive supplements and procedures, often just to pad the bill? Let me tell you a little secret. Of course not. When it comes to our own families, our fathers, our mothers, all the marketing fluff falls away. We go back to the fundamentals, to what has been proven to work not in commercials, but in basic biochemistry. And a few months ago, I had one of those rare, for our family only conversations. At a major conference on men's health, I was speaking with a colleague, one of the top urologists in the country. We were away from the presentations, and I asked him a very direct question. I said, John, we'll call him John, let's cut through all the noise. If you had to tell your own 65-year-old father to eat just 3 things for the rest of his life to protect his health, his energy, his very manhood, what would they be? Not for a textbook, for your dad. He got this serious look on his face. He looked around like he was about to share a state secret. And the list he gave me, it wasn't what I expected. It wasn't the typical eat more broccoli and chicken breast advice. It was specific, it was strategic, and frankly, it was brilliant. We're going to count them down from 3 to 1 because the last one, the number 1 food on his list, was the one that truly surprised me. It was the one he said made the biggest difference for his own father. This is insider information, so grab a notepad. Let's get into it. Okay, so for number 3, John looked at me and said, first, you have to build the right foundation. All the fancy stuff is useless if the core systems are inflamed and breaking down. I was thinking, here it comes, salmon. Everyone pushes salmon. And salmon is great. But he shook his head. He said, canned sardines. Yeah, sardines, the little fish that most people either love or hate. But he said, from a purely biochemical standpoint, for men over 60, they are almost a perfect food. Why? He broke it down into 3 simple parts. First, omega-3 fatty acids. You've heard of them, but what do? Imagine the hinges on a door. Over time, they get rusty and creak. They don't move smoothly. That's what inflammation does to your body's joints, to your blood vessels, to your brain cells. Omega-3, specifically the EPA and DHA you find in fatty fish, are like the highest quality lubricant you can find. They don't just quiet the squeak, they help to clean out the rust. For men over 60, this means less joint pain, better blood flow, which is critical for heart health and yes, erectile function, and it helps clear that brain fog that so many men start to complain about. But here's the insider tip. Why sardines over salmon? John said because they're small. Small fish are at the bottom of the food chain. They have a very short lifespan, which means they don't have time to accumulate the heavy metals, like mercury, that larger fish like tuna and even some farm-raised salmon can. They are cleaner, and they are incredibly cheap. It's a huge win. Second, vitamin D, the quote, sunshine vitamin. As we get older, our skin becomes less efficient at making vitamin D from the sun. And if you live in most of the US, you aren't getting enough sun in the fall and winter anyway. Low vitamin D is linked to everything from depression and a weak immune system to, and this is crucial for men, lower testosterone levels. Sardines are packed with it. They are one of the few natural food sources that contain a significant amount. Third, calcium and bone health. We always talk about osteoporosis in women, but men are at serious risk of bone fractures as they age too. A fall at 65 is very different from a fall at 25. Sardines, because you eat the tiny, soft, edible bones, are an incredible source of calcium. But it's better than a supplement because the vitamin D that's also in the sardines helps your body actually absorb and use that calcium. They work together. His dad, he told me, was a meat and potatoes guy. Getting him to eat fish was a battle. But he framed it this way, Dad, this is your insurance policy. 5 days a week, I want you to have a can of these on your toast for lunch. Simple. It was the first step in his father's transformation. He started to notice less creaking in his knees after a month. It was the foundation. So when you buy them, look for sardines packed in olive oil, not soybean oil or water. The olive oil adds more healthy fats and helps you absorb the fat-soluble vitamins. Mash them on a piece of whole grain toast with a squeeze of lemon. It's simple, cheap, and powerfully effective. That's number 3, the foundation. All right, for number 2 on the list, John leaned in a bit closer. He said, okay, the sardines are for the whole system. This next one is a targeted weapon. This is for the prostate. This is non-negotiable for my male patients and for my dad. He wasn't talking about a drug. He wasn't talking about some expensive supplement powder. He said 2 Brazil nuts. Not a handful, not a big bag, just 2 per day. This is a perfect example of how insider knowledge works. It's about precision. More is not better here. In fact, more can be worse. The secret is a mineral you almost never hear about, selenium. Selenium is a trace mineral, meaning your body only needs a tiny amount of it. But that tiny amount is the master key to one of the most important protective systems in your body. It helps your body create an enzyme called glutathione peroxidase. That's a fancy name, but think of it as your body's master antioxidant. It's the general of the army that fights cellular damage. And where is the highest concentration of selenium in the male body? The prostate gland. The prostate needs selenium to stay healthy and to fight off inflammation. As men age, many of them develop something called BPH, or benign prostatic hyperplasia. Let's simplify that. Imagine the tube that you urinate through, the urethra, is a garden hose. The prostate gland is like a fist wrapped around that hose. With BPH, that fist starts to slowly squeeze the hose. The flow gets weaker, you have to go more often, you have to get up multiple times a night, which wrecks your sleep. It's a classic sign of aging in men. Selenium is the prostate's personal bodyguard. It helps calm the inflammation that contributes to that swelling and squeezing. John's father was getting up 3, sometimes 4 times a night. He was exhausted. He thought it was just a normal part of getting older. John told him, "Dad, along with the sardines, I want you to eat exactly 2 Brazil nuts every morning. Put them next to your coffee maker so you don't forget." Why 2? Because a single Brazil nut is so incredibly dense in selenium that just one can contain 100% or more of your recommended daily intake. 2 gives you a powerful therapeutic dose. If you start eating handfuls, you can actually get too much selenium, which can be toxic over time. This is precision medicine using food. But it's not just for the prostate. Selenium is also critical for your thyroid gland. Your thyroid, that little butterfly-shaped gland in your neck, is the engine of your metabolism. It controls your energy level, your body temperature, even your mood. If your thyroid is sluggish, you are sluggish. You feel cold, tired, and foggy. Selenium is essential fuel for that engine. John told me that about 2 months after starting this regimen, his dad called him. He said, "You know, it's the strangest thing. That 2 p.m. slump I've had for the last 10 years, it's gone. I feel switched on." That was the thyroid support kicking in. He was also sleeping better because he was only getting up once a night instead of 4 times. That's the power of a targeted nutrient. So, not a handful, just 2 Brazil nuts a day. It's your prostate's bodyguard and your energy switch. That was number 2. Now, for the one that really blew my mind. All right, this is it. Number 1. After he told me about the sardines and the Brazil nuts, I thought I knew where he was going. Maybe beets for blood flow, maybe leafy greens. All good things. But he shook his head and his voice got even quieter. "Doc," he said, "this is the secret weapon. This isn't really a food. It's a tool. It's what we talk about when we discuss deep recovery and extinguishing inflammation. Forget the fad supplements. This is from the earth, and it works on a level that most people don't understand." He said the number 1 thing he put his father on was unsweetened tart cherry juice concentrate. Not regular sweet cherries. Not cherry pie filling. Specifically, the juice from Montmorency tart cherries. I was stunned. I knew tart cherries were healthy, but to make it the number 1 pick, I needed to know why. He explained that it's a 2-pronged attack on the 2 things that rob older men of their quality of life: chronic pain and poor sleep. Let's tackle the pain first. The villain here is something called chronic inflammation. Imagine you have a tiny, smokeless fire burning inside your body. All day, every day. It doesn't have big flames, so you don't always notice it, but it's slowly damaging the structure of your house, your joints, your arteries, your organs. That's chronic inflammation. It's what makes your joints stiff in the morning. It contributes to arthritis. It hardens your arteries. The deep red color in tart cherries comes from compounds called anthocyanins. These are incredibly potent anti-inflammatories. Think of them as a highly targeted fire extinguisher. They go into your system and they help to put out that low-grade fire. He got very specific here. He said, "You know how many of our older male patients suffer from gout? Gout is a form of inflammatory arthritis. It's caused by high levels of uric acid in the blood, which forms sharp crystals in the joints, especially the big toe. It's excruciatingly painful. Studies have shown, and he's seen it in his practice, that daily consumption of tart cherry juice can significantly lower uric acid levels and reduce the frequency and severity of gout attacks. But it's the second part that's the real game changer: sleep. Tart cherries are one of the richest natural sources of melatonin. Now, you can buy melatonin pills at any drugstore, but your body is smart. It doesn't always respond well to a big synthetic dose of a hormone. The melatonin in tart cherry juice is different. It's there along with other compounds that help your body's own natural sleep processes. It doesn't just knock you out, it seems to promote a deeper, more restorative sleep architecture. And deep sleep is when the magic happens for men. It's when your body produces the majority of its growth hormone for muscle repair. It's when your brain cleans out metabolic waste. And it's a critical window for testosterone production. You can be eating perfectly and exercising, but if you are not sleeping deeply, you are leaving all those gains on the table. Your body isn't rebuilding. This is where John's story about his father got really emotional. He said his dad was in a bad place. The sardines had helped his joints a bit, the nuts had helped his energy, but he was still in pain. His hands were stiff with arthritis. He'd given up on his hobbies like woodworking. He was waking up constantly, not just from his prostate, but from pain. He was grumpy and withdrawn. John told him, "Dad, this is the last piece of the puzzle. Every night, an hour before bed, I want you to take 1 tablespoon of this concentrate and mix it with a small glass of water." He said for the first week, not much happened. But in the second week, his dad called him and said, "I slept for 6 straight hours last night, for the first time in a decade." After a month, the change was dramatic. He was sleeping through the night consistently. He woke up and his hands weren't clenched into stiff claws anymore. The fire was out. He started going back into his workshop. He started playing on the floor with his grandkids again. John looked at me and he said, "The sardines gave him a foundation. The Brazil nuts gave him his energy back. But the tart cherry juice gave me my dad back." So let's recap the list. Number 3, canned sardines, your foundational source of clean omega-3s, vitamin D and calcium. Number 2, 2 Brazil nuts, a targeted weapon for prostate and thyroid health through selenium. And number 1, tart cherry juice concentrate, the secret weapon to extinguish inflammation, fight joint pain, and unlock deep, restorative sleep. This isn't a list I pulled from a generic health blog. This was a real conversation between 2 doctors talking about what really moves the needle, what we would recommend to the people we love most. My challenge to you is this: don't just take my word for it. Pick one, just one of these to start. Maybe it's the sardines on toast for lunch. Maybe it's the 2 Brazil nuts with your morning coffee, or maybe it's the shot of tart cherry juice before bed. Commit to it for 30 days. That's it. See how you feel. Pay attention to your energy, your sleep, your aches and pains. You have nothing to lose and everything to gain. Let me know in the comments which one you're going to try first. I'd love to hear from you. And if you found this information valuable, do me a favor and hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. It really helps get this kind of insider knowledge out to the men who need it most.